What do you hope for the future?
Innovation.
Safety.
Creativity.
Freedom.
Drones!
The future's usually painted as pretty bleak, isn't it? Politics, pollution, pestilence, poverty, sort of running out of negative P's. Parsnips, they're not nice. But here's a positive P, perspective. In reality, people around the world are working right now to build a better future for us all. Researchers, designers and developers are constantly expanding the boundaries of our potential, and it's thrilling. In these films, we'll be exploring a little of the hope hidden behind the horrible headlines we have thrown at us every day. This film's going to explore one technology that's going to reshape the cities of the future: autonomous cars. And now let's move from these beautifully crafted images to a 48-year-old dollop talking to an expert. Listen, I've always wanted to stand in a field with a health and safety expert, and thank God I've got the best. Safety Susie, can you give me a window into how dangerous driving a car really is? It's something I do just as a matter of course every day, and I never really think about risk. How risky is it?
Driving is one of the riskiest things that you will do. We make lots of mistakes when we drive. We're not really designed to whiz around at 70 miles an hour and experience traffic and make judgments at that kind of speed. 71 people are killed or seriously injured every single day on our roads.
In the UK?
In Great Britain, yeah.
If you translated those figures to other modes of transport, trains, planes, I mean, no one would get in an aircraft if someone said 71 people die or are seriously injured in one of those things.
Road traffic crashes, leading cause of death, of all causes of death for 15 to 29-year-olds globally.
Of all causes of death?
And you just don't know that, do you?
No, but why don't I know that?
Really, what's important to recognise, we know how to fix the problem.
Does that represent for you, coming, you know, from a safety point of view, just like a sort of nirvana?
It's kind of the future, isn't it? This kind of thing, yes, it doesn't give you the thrill of being a petrol head, etc. But actually, for me, valuing human life is so much more important.
The most important motivation at hand here is safety. When you look at the statistics and see that more than 90% of all accidents on the road are due to driver inattention, there's a huge potential for increasing safety there. Now, the thing about an autonomous vehicle is it would never be not paying attention. Whereas you can only look in one direction at a time, autonomous vehicles will be looking all 360 degrees around them at all times. So to that extent, it is kind of superhuman. AXA have been involved right from the very start with autonomous vehicles, and they have a very active role to play. Because it is so crucial to the acceptance and the actual introduction of the technology, it can't happen unless there are insurance procedures in place. We have the chance now to design a mechanism which in some ways can do better than a human being.
Isn't there something about being human that we're hardwired to push ourselves, and speed is part of that? We want to go as fast as possible.
I think it's the connection with the car. For someone like myself, I get the task of driving them on the track, and on the limit is where I enjoy it most.
What's your mode of transport normally?
The most practical form of transport for me comes in the family car. You know, I've got 2 young kids, so security is one big thing. Making sure they're safe.
How would your kids feel about getting into something like this? I mean, we're being quite curmudgeonly about it, but would they find it exciting?
I'm quite interested to see my kids, especially because they've been around racetracks. That's something they're not going to get the chance to do, drive their own car. Will they even need a driving licence?
The key thing I would imagine about this is it is safe. I mean, much as we love cars, you can't override the fact that it's a dangerous pursuit.
It is a dangerous pursuit, exactly, and this should take the human element out of our driving, and you can use that quality time in here, whether you're going to do a school run, whether you're going somewhere else, to actually interact with your kids a bit more.
How dare you? Have you done a big part?
No.
I think you have. You did a big part.
No, I like just How did it do that?
But no hands.
Yeah, without anybody even steering.
Are you steering?
No.
Do you think I'm steering?
No. No one's steering.
Well, how does that work? How do you feel about the future?
Happy.
Open-minded. So we originally got involved in driverless vehicles because we were really engaged with a local charity called Beacon Centre for the Blind. So we wanted to try and help people that are both partially sighted and mobility impaired. It's going to enable them to be socially inclusive. It's going to enable them to travel without the need for somebody to help them. So it's going to give them some independence, which they've never had before. We've been working really closely with AXA to look at preventing accidents. We've been looking at vehicle design, but most importantly, to make this a success and a safe success. It's brought tears to people's eyes here in the factory, the fact that we can actually change somebody's life for the better.
I'm here with a group of people whose needs historically have never been met by the motoring community, but that is about to change. So, Bongi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I represent a group of, elderly people.
I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Unfortunately, all the joints would dislocate on a daily basis.
I used to climb up mountains, all sorts of things like that, and then one day I broke my ankle, and it didn't heal properly.
We've always kind of suspected autism.
I've been deaf until 1 year old.
So, when I think of needs being met in a car, I never consider the needs of somebody who is deaf.
But from a deaf point of view, I take my hearing aids out when I drive. Because the noise of the engine overwhelms the hearing aids. So, the ambulance, maybe. I won't hear the ambulance until it's right behind me.
So how would an automated car make things better?
From that point of view, I'm lip reading people all day, so your eyes get very tired.
That's your chill time.
It would be fantastic, actually. You know, it's actually freedom.
It'll be a lot easier.
In terms of mobility?
Yeah.
To be able to just wheel in and go and not have to take the chair apart, put it away, get there, take the chair out again, put it back together. Fantastic.
What will we need most in the future?
Trust.
Compassion.
There's a common misconception that we talk about everything being in the future and we've kind of not realised how much time has passed. Things like driverless cars were talked about for ages and I'm standing next to one right now. So I think people haven't quite realised how far into the future we are yet.
So it's easy for Luddites like me to think that technology is completely removed, not only from my life, but removed in time. So these things, that we talk about are, generations away. But in fact, I've just seen a 6-year-old operate a drone with a wave of their hands. How much does this represent a leap forward for you?
It means people can become more flexible, and where previously some of them had some difficulties traveling,
Sure.
straight away they become connected. I think in general, if technology could help people to connect with each other more, just having more time to interact with your family and friends.
This isn't the end of the discussion, it's just the beginning. But as I've learned today, it's a conversation that we're all a part of. It's not them and us. It's not scientist versus the rest of the world. We can all work together and inform a future that is better for all of us. A few years ago, during what I thought was a routine blood test, I discovered I had a lump on my brain. Thankfully, a very benign lump. We like to think of ourselves as immortal. We don't want to see the full stop. My diagnosis was a shock. I felt alone and suddenly disconnected from my body. But if we choose to explore our bodies, the possibility of hope is endless. This is the second of 3 films exploring AXA's role in research that's changing our lives for the better. I don't know about you, but I've often grown up thinking it's nature versus nurture, like the two were mutually exclusive concepts. But what if they're not? What if you got your genetic blueprint but could do things in your life here and now that made your chances of living a longer life better? I'm off to meet a guy who unlocks the secrets of our bodies and helps us to live better now. Peter, I'm someone who, running slightly contrary to the flow, is not tired of experts. I love an expert, and you're the main man here today. Tell me what the AXA funding has meant for you and the work that you do.
The AXA funding's been fundamental to my research. I've been able to look at how DNA differences between you and I might affect how long each of us live. The AXA Research Fund is interested in funding research about some of the big themes in our society, things like big data, things like climate change. So I put forward my proposal to study how DNA affects lifespan.
And when it comes to analysing genetics, presumably there is no more interesting case study than twins.
That's right. So twins have been the sort of cornerstone of much genetic research for a long, long time. In what sense are particularly identical twins truly identical? So we see things like eye colour, whether your hair's curly. But then a lot of the more interesting traits are not necessarily identical to them. And for me, things like 2 identical twins will often not suffer from the same diseases. They'll almost certainly not live exactly the same amount of time.
I'm Ross.
I'm Hugo.
And we're the Turner twins.
We go off on expeditions all over the world, and as we're twins, it allows medical research teams to study how our bodies are affected in extreme environments. Individually, we're not that interesting, but I guess as a huge research study and you build it out, it then suddenly starts becoming an incredibly valuable data set. So it's a really, really exciting to kind of be part of some pioneering research as twins, that we can kind of go off and do our expeditions and come at it from a slightly different angle.
I mean, my dad was an identical twin, and he went on to develop 3 primary cancers over 20 years and passed away 2 years ago, and my uncle's still alive and thriving and has never, ever been touched with a day of cancer.
I don't think a lot of people know actually how much research, time, effort, professionalism, you know, the greatest minds in the world are actually working on problems that we might not appreciate now, but in 10, 20 years' time, the advances in medical research and understanding and the techniques that are able to treat such conditions will be so far beyond what they are today.
You've given good data, and for that we thank you. God, I envy you. Look at you. How much would you say our lives are dependent on our genes, and how much is predicated on things like lifestyle, healthy eating, exercise, all that sort of stuff?
About 1/6 of how long we live, for example, is under direct genetic control. The rest of it's about environment and, in fact, the interaction between those two things.
I'm actually surprised by what a small number that is, actually, because sometimes you feel like you're under the cosh of your own heredity. You know, you sort of feel that, oh, I'm born with this sort of genetic sequencing that's absolutely going to dictate. But you're saying that really we have so much free will in terms of how we navigate our health and well-being.
Absolutely. You and I both have about 3 billion letters in this huge genome that we keep hearing about. And what I'm trying to do is understand how individual pieces of that genome affect how long we live.
For me, it's not just how long we live, but it's how well we live. I think that it's more fundamental.
And I think by understanding the aging process and understanding susceptibility to disease, it's very much my hope that as we live longer, we live healthier and happier as well.
When I was diagnosed, things changed. Suddenly, my insides felt alien, like they were working against me. I was stunned by how little control I felt I had over my own body. But I've learnt today we're already much further along the journey of understanding ourselves than people thought possible. Genetic research, being supported by the AXA Research Fund, means we can comprehend our specific needs and nourish them. Like all the great moments in human experience, this is possible because of collaboration. Scientists, volunteers, and those willing to adventure have combined to unlock the deepest mysteries within all of us.